Hello. Today I went to kind of the last area really of the city where I haven't been, or the areas I intended to go at least. And I hit a pretty decent jackpot. Well, jackpot might be overstating it, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 CDs. Some of these I've been kind of half looking for a long time. One in particular, I'll go through them. Actually, the first one I want to get. I went to, how many shops did I go to? I went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shops. 5 shops. And at one shop, first thing I found was the Oasis album. If you don't know, it is Heathen Chemistry. From, I'm going to try and make a trick. I'm going to say 2002. God, it's so dark. Is that a date? Yes, I think that says 2002 there. Is that showing up? It's not showing up, is it? There it is, 2002. You can just see it there. I was right, because Standing on the Shoulders of Giants came out in 99. Or was that 2000? Anyway, about 2 or 3 years before this. This is probably my least favorite Oasis album. It was just, I wasn't that really that interested in what they were doing at this time, and the singles they released off this I didn't really like. They include The Hindu Times, Force of Nature, Hung in a Bad Place, Stop Crying Your Heart Out. Really don't like that song. Songbird, Little by Little, Quick Peep, Probably On the Mind, She Is Love, Born on a Different Cloud, Better Man. Yeah, just reading through that. Not the strongest Oasis album, and yeah, it was just kind of a period for them that I thought they were the least interesting or enjoyable. Not that they were ever the most interesting band, but I'm just talking personally here. But I found this, and the reason why I picked this, or obviously the reason I picked this up is because I don't have it, but in particular, this is the last album I need to get, except for Dig Out Your Soul. I don't have Dig Out Your Soul, but I now have definitely maybe What's the Story, Morning Glory, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, Master Plan, Heathen Chemistry, Don't Believe the Truth, and that's it. Do I have something else? Do I have a live album or something? Can't remember, but I don't have Dig Out Your Soul. But I'm pretty close to having their entire discography. There they are at this time. Noel and Liam, Alan White still drumming, and Gem Archer and Andy Bell, who had replaced Bonehead and Guigsy after they left. When did they leave? They left during the making of Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. So this was actually the second album these guys were, or at least touring with. Various band shots. You know, it's crazy. This is 23 years ago. So many of these 2000s era albums just seem like yesterday, and still in my mind seem new. Like, oh, this is one of the newer Oasis albums, but this came out, 7 years after What's the Story, Morning Glory? I think that came out in 95. And it's been 23 years since this came out. So the gap between this and Morning Glory is 7 years, and the gap between this and now is 23 years. But I kind of, in my mind, I consider it a newish Oasis album. Obviously, there's no such thing as a newish Oasis album. They're all pretty old, aren't they? Anyway, I got that for $1. So that's a pretty, for me in my collection at least, it's something I've been looking for a while. Then I went to a few other shops, nothing. And then the last shop I went to, which is a St. Vincent de Paul charity shop, which I've been to a handful of times over the last 5 years, certainly not one of my regular places. I found a kind of bunch of CDs all together that had obviously been been dropped off by the same person, or maybe the family of that person. If we're gonna say an overall thematic kind of thread, I wouldn't say the genre, but maybe it's new metal. There are some that aren't new metal, or there's one that isn't new metal, but I'd say the others you could probably class partially as new metal. So let's start with, some would say, the creators of new metal, Korn, Untouchables. One of their better albums, kind of the last of, in my mind, the best work of Korn. If we think about the self-titled Life is Peachy, Follow the Leader, Issues, and then this, I say everything that came after this was a step down in my mind. That was kind of their creative peak through that period. And this kind of spelled the end of it. A lot of people didn't like this album, and it didn't really sell as well, but it was kind of on the cusp of that, not even really on the cusp, it was kind of when file sharing was taking over and record sales just started to tank. I remember this was leaked online. This came out in about, let's see if I can guess this one, 2002. 1 or 2. And the writing's, it's 2002, it says down there. I can just see it. Can you see that's not really focusing it, but yes, 2002 Sony Music. And you can see it was produced by Michael Beinhorn, which is a bit of a departure because previously they had obviously worked with Ross Robinson. Can't even remember who they worked with on Issues and Follow the Leader. But Michael Beinhorn obviously had kind of been more famous for lusher sounds, more expansive sounds with his production. And so it proved, I remember when this was being recorded, they were kind of crowing about the fact that they were using a 24-channel studio. I don't even know how it works, but I know it had 24 channels. The mixing, whatever. It was kind of, for its time, was kind of, and it cost, I think it was $2 million or something crazy to make this album. It took a long time. I remember after Issues came out, because they released Issues a year after Follow the Leader. Because Follow the Leader was massive. They wanted to build on that success. So they kind of put Issues out within a year and a half. And then I was expecting something quicker after Issues. But obviously, you can imagine all the things that happened because they'd found mega stardom and all the rest of it. And so this album took longer than anticipated. It took kind of almost 3 years to get out. And the first track I heard of it is that first single, Here to Stay, which is still a great song. I listened to it in the car on the way home, and it's still a really good song. Really kind of got that, I don't know what you call it, really like thumping, driving rhythm, almost also like almost like a little bit of groove or swing. Dun, 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 dun. The other songs off this, Hollow Life, I really like that song. Thoughtless was okay. That was a single as well, I think. The song that I really came to enjoy was Alone I Break. I especially like in that there's a kind of a middle 8 bridge interlude that I really liked at the time. And again, listening to it now, I still quite like that. But yes, this album didn't do as well commercially as their previous two. And also, I say maybe even critically, it may have been kind of considered good. Like I think people saw it, critics saw it as a kind of a step forward in their songwriting. It was a lot, like I said, kind of much more wider spectrum of sounds and kind of atmospherics added to the music, as opposed to kind of that new metal bludgeoning that might have been on, especially the first two albums. But you can't be big forever, as I often say in this. So I played that in the car on the way home and it played through well. Jewel case is actually in excellent condition. Now you see I got this for $2. They were selling this, so this is third hand. They sold this second hand. That's at Real Groovy Records. I reckon what it says right there. So they sold this second hand for $26. Don't know when that would have been because they still use the same stickers now, so it's hard to kind of date those Real Groovy stickers. But regardless, that's kind of crazy price. A second-hand CD is $26. There's no Untouchables with some absolute masterpiece or super rare or something like that. You see it around quite a lot, and they're still trying to fucking bleed $26 out of the customer for it. So I got it for $2. They also had self-titled Korn album there, but I already have that, so I didn't pick that up. Next. Issues by Korn. Again, $2. Now, I own this. I bought this on day one when it came out back in 1999. I still remember quite vividly buying it. I remember when you bought it, you got a free poster and a free voucher for some Puma shoes. Remember, obviously Korn is associated with Adidas because Jonathan Davis wore Adidas tracksuits, especially in the early kind of years of the band. But they took a sponsorship from, which seems crazy, a band taking a sponsorship, but they took a sponsorship from Puma for this album. And so they would get, when you bought this, you got a voucher for, because I got quite a big discount off Puma shoes, like a 60% discount or something crazy like that. So I've owned this before, but I don't own it right now, so I picked it up. You might also remember when this was released, there were a variety of album covers. There was one with kind of cartoony looking caricatures of the band. There was another one with like kind of like a rag doll that with like a button eye missing. I think there was one more. This is actually the cover that I chose because you could choose. They had all four in the record shop when I bought them back in 1999. And this is the one that I chose at the time because I thought it was different, unique, not so derivative as those other ones. Here they are right here. I was talking about. Yeah, these are the four. So it was a competition, MTV competition, I think. And so their fans designed 4 different ones. I've never seen that one before anywhere. I remember seeing those ones in the shops. And like I said, I own that one. I don't think I've ever seen that one. Now, so it's a double disc. What's going to be on the bonus disc? So we've got Issues here. It's going to be some shitty remix, I would guess. Yes, we got an Adidas remix, A Good God from... both those from Life is Peachy, a Dub Pistols mix, Got the Life, Josh Abram remix, Twist G live, and Jingle Balls, which is a pretty shit song because I've heard that before actually. All mixed up. I actually think I had that as well back in 1999, but I can't be 100% sure about that. I quite like this album back at that time when it came out. They were one of my favorite bands. When this came out in 1999, I saw them in concert live at the Big Day Out in very, very early 99. It was early 99. Which was kind of about 6 months after Follow the Leader has come out. And that was just seeing them right, when you see a band, when you're really into them, kind of at the timing is perfect. Well, that's how I felt. It was a great concert. They played a great set, and I was super, super into them. And so this came out, and I still think it's a pretty good album. What songs do I not like? Don't really like Counting. Also, some of the kind of interlude things. So you can see some of the songs are like a minute or a minute and a half, like Am I Going Crazy? It's Gonna Go Away, Dead. For You, Wish You Could Be Me. I don't like that one. They're kind of like these. It's kind of a strange thing when you think about it. It's not really something that rock bands typically do. It's more of like a hip hop thing where they have these kind of like almost like mini songs, where it's almost like the part of a song before going into a full song. So the first song on the album, that starts off with bagpipes. And it's like, yeah, it's almost like an introduction. Like, here we're introducing the album with this little ditty, and then they go into Falling Away From Me, which was the big single. Trash, that's a great song. Make Me Bad, that's an awesome song. Wake Up, I never really liked that much, to be honest. Hey Daddy, I like that. Somebody, Someone, that was a single as well. Let's Get This Party Started. At the time, I liked that. Dirty, it's quite a good song as well. Produced by Brendan O'Brien, a kind of another big-time producer. Worked with a lot of famous bands, worked with Soundgarden, Mastodon, probably many, many others. Anyway, got that for $2 as well. So 2 Korn albums. New Metal City. What's next? System of a Down. First album, self-titled, came out in 1998. See, am I right? 98. Yes, 1998. Now, by the time I heard or knew of these guys, it was just before Toxicity came out. So I kind of discovered them in about early 2001-ish. I remember I was learning bass guitar, and I used to interact on these forums online, music forums, and a lot of people talked about System of a Down. And so I downloaded some songs off this album. The songs I remember downloading were War. Where's War? There, track 8. I think Spiders. Maybe Sweet Pea or Sugar. I can't remember. I always get those 2 songs kind of same kind of way in my mind for some reason. But it's a good album. Then Toxicity came out, and which is massive, at least from my memory. I actually won a copy of Toxicity from a radio station. You call it the radio station, you'd be the 7th caller through or something like that. And I won it back in 2001. So yeah, I've been kind of half looking for this for about 5 years as well, because I owned this on CD back probably about 20 some years ago. I also already have Steal This Album, Hypnotize, Mesmerize. Do I have anything else? I think I don't have Toxicity anymore, and I didn't have this, but now I've got it. So I got that for $2. Now they had a deal, $2 each or 3 for $5. So basically $1 discount for every 3 you bought. So I got these 3 for $5, but there's more. I'm trying to think what order I should do this in. Maybe I'll show these 3 together. Slipknot, Slipknot, Slipknot. Album 1, 2, 3. Again, $2 each, but I got 3 of them, so it's 3 for $5. I've owned... I can't actually remember if I've ever owned this album. I think I have. This is, again, 25 years ago or something. These 2 I absolutely don't know I've owned. But I remember a lot of my friends owned this. I listened to this a lot, and if I didn't own the physical, I definitely downloaded songs from it. But I can't remember if I actually owned the debut album. Well, it's not debut, is it? Because Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat, whatever it's called, is their debut. But that was before Corey Taylor and a lot of the other guys were in the band. But this is their self-titled, and I guess their first album in the iteration that we all know and perhaps love, perhaps not love. Yes, so if you don't know Slipknot, I'm sure you do. You don't really need me to introduce them, but we could say they were kind of part of that new metal thing around this. This came out in 1999, and that was certainly the one of the peak years of new metal. I'd say they were a little bit heavier than the average new metal, a little bit more kind of heavy metal as opposed to the new hip hop influence stuff. But this first album, you can definitely hear some of that, the DJ scratching and almost kind of some of the, not rapping, he's not rapping, but kind of, you can hear some kind of hip hop influence in his vocal delivery in a few bits and pieces. They use a lot of sample stuff like that. It's kind of a classic album. I was never huge on this album. It's a good album and there's some really good songs on it, but there's some on it that I don't like. It's kind of the same way I felt like about Slipknot overall, about all their music, is that I tend to like their more radio friendly stuff, because I find when they're kind of going into just the heavy metal, they have a tendency to be quite formulaic, boring, and repetitive, and nothing special. But the thing that kind of, the part of them that does make them a little bit unique or special is their use of melody. Corey Taylor's use of melody in his vocals, doing a little bit of more interesting things with the kind of, they've got like fucking 10 people in the band. So sometimes the interesting things they do with the DJ or the sampling keyboards or the bloody beer keg players or whatever, that's kind of sets them apart. But when they're just doing more kind of straightforward heavy metal, it's never really been that interesting to me. So yeah, so I got that one, debut album, Iowa, which I believe came in 2001, August 2001 from memory, because I remember it being released and it being a big deal at the time. Yep, just before 9/11 and all that carry on. I think personally this is a bit of a better album, for those reasons I talked about, that they use a song like I don't know, even like People Equals SHIT. That's a heavy song, or a Heretic song, a Heretic anthem, sorry. Those are both very heavy songs, quite abrasive, but there's something kind of catchy about them. And so I appreciate that catchiness from Slipknot. And then the third album, I know a lot of people don't, or at least their fans apparently don't like this album. I remember buying this off the back of the Duality single, which I was kind of blown away by. This came in 2003, so blown away in 2003. Maybe I wouldn't be blown away now if I listened to it in 2025. I mean, if I heard it for the first time. But back then, I was like, holy shit. I'm not sure exactly what it is. But again, it's that kind of, it's the mixture of that kind of brutality that they do have, but also the kind of almost like pop sensibility, being able to marry that together with Corey Taylor being able to do clean vocals as well as metal vocals. Some very kind of pretty songs like Circle and Vermilion Part 2. Maybe they were the ones that people didn't like, I don't know. Especially a very big single, Before I Forget. I thought that's a great song as well. That's got a really good bridge as well. The part, the ends that justify the means, that part, I always love that. Really huge and kind of big sounding. So yeah, I've always been kind of, 50-50 is the right word, because I'd say I'm a fan of Slipknot, but I've never been 100% sold on them, because for as much as they can write really good songs, some of the stuff they do I just find quite boring. But that's just me. They're all kind of, I think that's where they're wearing the death masks on the video for Vermilion Part 1. Usually they wear their, clown and Joker and all the rest of the masks. It's like serial killer. Everyone's seen their faces now anyway. Fucking Corey Taylor's and other bands were not wearing a mask. They're all been in other bands or publicity shots with no mask. But in this video, they took the mask off and put on like a death mask. When someone dies, they do a death mold of their face. And they kind of made a mask of that and put it over their face. Got a strange effect. Like it was their face, but their face as a mask, as though they had died. And I think that's what they're wearing here. So it kind of looks like their face, but not their face, if you know what I mean. Really like the guitar solo in Vermilion Part 1. Remind me of a Alice in Chains guitar solo for some reason. There's something about the tone of his guitar, or I'm not exactly sure why I've always made that connection, but yeah. Anyway, 3 Slipknot albums for $5. Not bad. Finishing up, we've got 2 more. Speaking of Slipknot, Stone Sour, Corey Taylor's side project. Also, Jim Root was in this band, or at this time, he's not anymore. The guitarist from Slipknot was also in the band. It's kind of a... I've never listened to Stone Sour beyond this album. I owned this album back in 2004. I think it came out in about 2003, 2004. Let's see. 2002, okay? I was out on that one. On the Roadrunner label. What was I going to say? I can't remember what I was going to say. I own this album. I listened to this album at the time, but I never really listened to anything after this. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard a Stone Sour song that wasn't on this album. Railway Points, or in America, I think they call them a switch. Oh no, it's not a switch though. Oh yes, it is. Usually Points has got the movable, that part moves. I'm not sure exactly how. I don't know what, that's kind of a strange point system. Anyway, who cares? Start talking about railway shit. I don't really much to say about this album. The big single off it was Bother, which was also on the Spider-Man soundtrack, Spider-Man movie soundtrack. Omega, that last song, it's not really a song, it's a spoken word thing. It's like reading a poem. But yeah, kind of half been looking for this, to re-buy this. And the opportunity arose today. The last one. Now, this is something I've definitely been looking for, I guess, years, because I've never owned this album. I've owned Opiate, Anima, Lateralis, 10,000 Days. I've never owned Fear Inoculum, and I've never owned Undertow. And Tool is one of those bands where I've been, slowly buying their albums over the years, secondhand. Whenever they pop up, I'll buy them. This one has popped up before, but usually a bit overpriced. I've seen someone offering it for $15 in one of the Facebook pages, which is, it's not worth buying, because eventually, as it proved today, it will pop up secondhand. And so I got it for $2. The first song I ever heard from Tool, like most people, was Sober. That was on a alternative rock soundtrack called The Trip 2 that I owned, one of the very first CDs I ever bought in my life. And my first impressions of that were, this band is kind of weird. And I thought Maynard's vocals in particular were quite weird. I guess we're used to them now. We're used to his voice, but he has got a very unique voice, like the tone or the cadence, or however you want to explain what it is. The way that it's kind of like a kind of weird coldness. Like he doesn't emote the way that a typical rock singer does, or metal singer does. kind of has this almost certain deadpanness in some of his delivery, but then he has the ability to kind of give a lot of power to his voice as well. Regardless, when I first heard that song Sober, I was just, I thought this sounds strange. And then I saw the video and I thought, this video is strange. And then I think I saw the video for Prison Sex and I thought, this video is strange. I never particularly liked them though. I didn't dislike them. They were the only two songs I ever heard off this album back when I was a kid. Then Anima came out, and at least in New Zealand, it seemed they kind of exploded from there. And every man and his dog was listening to that album and bought that album. And I've listened to bits and pieces of this over the years. I like it. It's not the same as what would come after. You can hear, obviously, the building blocks of what would come after, but they were a lot more, how do you describe it? The albums that came after it, the two albums especially that came after this, Anima and Lateralis, are a lot more, have this feeling of kind of a, and this could be because of the themes or the lyrics or the kind of time signatures, or kind of more esoteric, mystical kind of feeling. Whereas this kind of sounds much kind of more raw, alternative rock. Certainly with some, like I said, weirdness. I think Maynard's vocals are always going to lend that sort of weirdness to the songs, but it doesn't have the same thing that they would come to have. I'm not saying that if that's good or bad, but it's just, if you would listen to this expecting it to be, oh, this is going to be like those other ones, it isn't. Always had strange artwork. Probably shouldn't show that because that might get flagged. This was obviously in the days where, before Justin Chancellor was the bassist, and I think his name was Paul D'Amour or something. Paul D'Amour. There it is there. Paul D'Amour. D'Amour. How do you pronounce that? I'm not sure. He left the band, which, this was a pretty successful album. I don't know how much it sold. Probably it would have sold over 1 million copies, if I'm going to guess. I'd say almost certainly it sold over 1 million copies. They were, I think, on the Lollapalooza tour. They were able to tour extensively, but Paul D'Amour wasn't happy. And I remember reading something like he felt he wasn't creatively fulfilled in the band. I don't know if that was because, from what I've heard, it's very much Adam and Danny's band. I always thought that Maynard James Keenan was much more involved in the formation of the songs, the music part of the songs, maybe he was before, but certainly for what he said about the most recent album, Ferinoculum, it's basically the three other guys work on the music for years, apparently, literally years. And once they feel it's done, they send it to him, or he comes into the studio, whatever, and he puts lyrics on it, or vocals on it. He's not in there crafting the guitar lines or the drums or whatever with the band. And maybe at that time of Undertow, or after Undertow, before when they were maybe getting ready for Anima, that maybe Adam and Danny were completely in control creatively, and he doesn't feel he was getting enough input. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just speculating. Anyway, they brought in Justin Chancellor, who was formerly in the band Peaches, I believe is the name of it. Peach or Peaches, I can't remember. It's a British band. He is British. And, it's kind of the bass tone and the bass in general is so important in Tool. it really kind of drives the song. That's sometimes people kind of shit on Tool, and I've been guilty of that as well. Is that because people, and I don't know if this is the same in America, but I'd say in New Zealand, especially growing up, Tool was so revered and kind of put on this pedestal of being like this ultra, like I said, esoteric, mystical, highly intelligent, progressive band that were kind of a level above everything else. And that always kind of pissed me off because I always just thought, well, they're not actually that amazing. I can think of a million bands that are better, and I still feel that way. I've got a lot of bands I like more than Tool. However, especially learning their songs on guitar, like this isn't some magical thing that I've learned myself. If you listen to the songs, you can hear the same things. Just I never picked up on it. The guitar, Adam Jones's guitar, doesn't drive the songs in the same way that a traditional rock band or hard rock or metal band does. It's much more kind of atmospheric and providing almost like mood to the song. There are songs where he's just riffing, over it, like, and then like you'd hear in most other rock bands, but the bass and the drums almost seem like the real driver of the songs. And again, when I try to talk about these things, I always kind of get a bit stuck in the mud because I don't know enough about music theory or composition to kind of really explain my point properly. But like for example, not on this album, but on Anima 46 and 2, which is a great song. I've loved that song since the first time I heard that. The bass is really driving that. And the guitar is kind of coming, especially in the kind of intro part, the guitar is kind of dancing around the bass and going in between the bass. And then kind of in the chorus, I guess it kind of lines up with the bass and it goes along with the bass, or the bass goes along with it. But then looking at some of those songs, I realized that happens quite a lot in a lot of their songs. Adam Jones's guitar riffs, actually, or not just riffs, his guitar parts are quite simple. Almost all their songs are in drop D. Like 98% of them. I think Prison Sex is in drop B or something mental like that. But it's not... The stuff he's playing is quite almost simplistic. It's not simplistic in the way that like a Green Day song is simplistic to play. But it's... From listening to the songs, that sometimes they sound really complex, but then you realize the complexity often is coming from the bass and maybe Maynard's vocals, or probably more the drums, because Danny Carey's drumming is pretty fucking complex sometimes. And as much as people fillet him, and sometimes that also kind of turns me off a bit, the way that people think he's the greatest drummer that's ever lived. He is an amazing drummer, and for a mainstream band, he shows some amazing kind of versatility and complexity and drumming skill and technicality in what he does on records. All that's to say, I'm happy to have this. I got it for $2. So that's a pretty decent haul. Nothing else in the bag. No, just some headphones. That's a pretty decent haul for one day, and probably what's going to be my last day of this New Year hunt, because I'm going back to work soon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's right. So I got 9 CDs for $14. So 3 for $5, 3 for $5, then 2 for 6. No, sorry, 2 for $4. That's $12. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. Geez, I don't know. That one was $1. 1, 2, 3, $5. 1, 2, 3, $5. So $10, $11, 12, 13, 15. Okay, so 9 CDs for $15. And all CDs that I've, not saying like I really wanted this for so long, other than Undertow. Undertow is absolutely something that I've been actively looking for and was almost considering buying it new, not a used copy. So that is something that I've been really kind of looking for a long time, but waiting, knowing that eventually I'd find it. The other one's kind of like a lower level, maybe System of a Down also, but the other ones are kind of like, I'm happy to have them, but I wasn't super duper looking for them. But still, all things that certainly fit into the main genre of music that I collect: rock, hard rock, metal type stuff. All those in one day, most of them in one shop. I was really happy to find them in that last shop. It was kind of like that. It's so rare nowadays, because usually things I'm finding is like, that's good, okay. But to actually find like one after another, and then I realized, like, I think what was the first one I saw? What was the first one? System of a Down, I think. And then I looked, and the next one, I think I saw Subliminal Verse. I was like, what? It's Slipknot? And then I kind of looking up and I was like, Slipknot? Korn? And I was like, realized, holy shit, it's a whole collection. Someone's dropped off a collection of kind of new metalish stuff here. And the ones that I didn't get, there were 4 other CDs there that were part of the same collection. 2 albums by Seether, that kind of South African new metalish, post-grunge-ish band. I guess they're more post-grunge than new metal. Never liked them. And Stain, 2 albums by Stain, Break the Cycle and 13 Shades of Grey. Also, never liked them. I think the only Stain song I've ever heard that I kind of thought, it's okay, is It's Been a While. But everything else I've heard by them is I haven't liked. And also, not that this affects my choice in buying music, but just as an aside, the singer from Stain is a fucking dork. But that doesn't influence whether I buy a CDs, because I'm sure there are people in featured within some of these albums that are also dorks. Such as some of the guys in Slipknot are dickheads. Corey Taylor always comes off as a bit of a dick, a bit of an asshole. But anyway, all right, that's all. Over 40 minutes now of blabbing. Perhaps the last day of the hunt, the New Year hunt. And I'd say overall pretty good. I found quite a lot of stuff. I'll do a wrap up. Once I'm 100% certain I finished, I will do a wrap up. Today was the 22nd. Try to look at the calendar. Yes, it was the 22nd. And I went to St. Vincent de Paul, SPCA, excuse me, Salvation Army, Red Cross, St. John. Those were the shops I went to today. All of these were in Onehunga. Not that that means anything to anyone watching this. Kind of in the middle of the whole city. Not the city centre, as in the CBD, but more kind of, if you were to talk to Auckland as a circle, you would say Onehunga is kind of the middle of that circle. Wasn't that one? It was this one I got, Oasis, for $1. And I got Slipknot times 3, Korn times 2, Stone Sour times 1, so 3, 4, 5, 6. What was the other one? I'm forgetting already. System of a Down and Tool. And what did I say? All those were, God, I'm going to forget again. $10, $15. So 14 for those and one for that 15. Look what I've written so far. This is all the stuff I've done so far. It would be interesting how much I've spent. I'd say it's going to be less than 50 just by eyeballing it here. And it'd be interesting to see how many CDs I get for that. because I kind of forgot some of the ones I've even bought so far. Well, there was a lot of days like here where I got absolutely nothing. I visited 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shops and got nothing the whole day. But we'll talk about that when I wrap it up, maybe tomorrow. All right, guys, thank you for watching.